In this video, I'm going to show you how to specify the topic of conversation and track the focus as it shifts using the NLP Hierarchy of Ideas model. So are we talking about like apples or oranges? And you might have noticed that some people just keep shifting the topic of conversation, mismatching, using generalisations, counterexamples until the conversation just moves right away onto another topic and nothing much is achieved. So, for example, my friend John, he told me about a serious argument he had with his best friend over a farming practice in Australia. As it turned out, John was thinking about a town in Queensland, while his friend was thinking of a town by the same name in Victoria. Now, literally, they were on different parts of the map. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to get on the same page and track a conversation such that you get the most value from it. So we start by defining discussion and argument. So a discussion is an earnest conversation in which there is the act of consideration and examination of a topic to gather information and explore solutions. Whereas an argument is a discussion like a debate, in which the focus is on difference and disagreement is expressed. An emotional argument occurs when two people get locked into differences, and we only come to agreement when both focus on sameness or agree to differ. So what type of conversation are you going to have? So the type of conversation that you have will depend upon the topic, the people, and the context. For example, is the conversation going to be an interview, an interrogation, a coaching conversation, or a discussion with a friend or an enemy? So who each person is, that is their identity, their status and face, the context of the conversation, the location of the conversation, and the topic of the conversation will set a framework. All right. So what is the topic of the conversation? So whether it's a casual conversation with a friend or a serious discussion with a journalist, one of you will initially define the topic. And so now I'm just going to show you how to track the topic using the Hierarchy of Ideas model that I learned from Tad James back in the 90s. So what you do is you build like a grid framework, in your mind, which allows you to focus in on the details or step back and get the bigger picture. So it looks something like this. So what we do is we start with the topic of, say, transportation. And then we can say, ask, what is transportation an example of? We get movement. And what's movement an example of? We get life. So we were chunking up to more abstract. So now we come back to transportation and we chunk down and we say, well, what are some of the context or the areas that transportation occurs? And we get categories of land, air, water, outer space. So then let's say we take land transportation and we chunk down. What are some types of land transportation? We get motorized, wind, and animal. So then if we take motorized transportation and we chunk down, we say, well, what are some examples of motorized transportation? And we get cars, trucks, planes, ships, and so on. Then if we take cars and we chunk down on cars, we could say, well, what are some makes of cars? And then we get Holden, Ford, Toyota, BMW, and so on. So then if we say stay with Holden, we chunk down to models. We get Commodore, Monaro, Calais. And then we could chunk down from Commodore down to the engine, the wheels, and the seats. And then from the engine, we could chunk all the way down to nuts and bolts and then to atoms. So if you see what we've been doing, as we chunk down, we get down to specifics and to details. And as we chunk up to more abstract, we're chunking up to global generalisations to the big picture. All right? So logical levels of abstraction, going down to details and specifics. So then what we can also do, as you can see, when we move across from left to right, we have what we call logical types. So if we look at, say, cars, you can see that cars, trucks, planes, ships, they all sort of fit into the same category. But if we were to add, say, Commodore, if we said cars, trucks, planes, ships, Commodore, we would go, well, that doesn't make sense, you know, or cars, trucks, planes, ships, you know, seats or nuts and bolts. It doesn't make sense. But that's the sort of thing which actually happens with some topics, especially the topic of religion, especially when it's focused on Islam. So the hierarchy of ideas, this is a little bit like working with a jigsaw puzzle. So rather than focusing in on one piece of the puzzle and getting lost, you put that piece into the frame of the bigger picture and see how it connects with all the other bits. And as appropriate, you can focus in on the specifics, but always keeping in mind the bigger picture. And when someone mismatches or uses a counterexample, you can still track the relationship between the ideas. So let's leave it there. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to apply the hierarchy of ideas to religion, and specifically to Islam. And this is where it gets interesting.